Hey there, cats and kitties. I am the Blues Man, Johnny Blues, and with this video, I'll be discussing my thoughts on episode 20 of the anime series Shokugeki no Soma. And this kind of felt largely like an uneventful episode to me personally. Not a lot was really happening for the first half of it. Everyone was kind of on summer break and going home. You had, Megumi going back to her homestead and, sort of just doing things in the kitchen and impressing the locals, her friends and family, people she lived around. You had the Aldini boys, of course. At least Takumi seems to go back to Italy. Asami stays behind and wants to, air quotes, think about things a little bit and, mull things over. And apparently because of the summer heat, he loses a tremendous amount of weight and looks like a completely different person. I wish we all had that kind of luck. The heat actually has a very derogatory effect on my physical health. Very, highly susceptible to heat exhaustion and dehydration. And, to see this guy who's like 300 pounds and he's like a toothpick and he's fine and he feels good and everything is like, wow. We're building up to the preliminaries to the autumn elections, and you have Megumi's sort of voiceover very much misdirecting me. I didn't know exactly when she says, oh, we have a month to go, and then she says we have 6 weeks before the preliminaries, and then, halfway through the episode or whatever, she's like 3 weeks until, and I'm wondering when she first mentions 6 weeks, because there's about 6 episodes left beyond this, or 5, or whatever it is. Were we actually going to have this preliminary thing last that last stretch of episodes, and the actual autumn elections would not even be covered? As people have speculated with this particular season, it might be, they begin or what have you, and they would have to then pick up in a second season or something, or you'd have to go read the manga and whatever like that. And it was a little confusing to me at first, but then, of course, we're speeding through the summer. The weeks and the days, are going by very quickly, very speedily. And then the preliminaries essentially begin. And you have all of these different characters. Soma's there, Mito's there, the new characters like Now and everything. Megumi, of course, the Aldini boys, all that kind of stuff. And they've been broken, as was, basically told to them, into these two different groups of 30, where I was really wondering how exactly they were going to pare that down and how people were going to move on to the autumn elections proper, how many of them would. And apparently they're going to whittle down those groups of 30, 60 in total, each of them down to 4. And those 4 from each group, making a total of 8, are the only ones who are going to be actually moving beyond this particular preliminaries. And with the judges being made up of food conglomerate heads and CEOs. It's interesting that we're introduced to a couple of twin sisters, Natsumi and Orei, or whatever, Orei, I don't know how you pronounce it. They said it kind of weird, but both of these sisters, the Orei sisters actually seemingly very horny and wants to get with, Satoshi and all this stuff, or she's not very impressed by, Megumi, for example, and he's like, oh, give her a sec, just watch and wait, she'll be able to do something pretty incredible. And you basically have flipping back and forth between certain of these judges looking at everyone's dishes that they're preparing. The Aldini boys using tomatoes and being a very Italian sort of inspired dish, whatever they're going to do with the curry, the rule of having to do something curry related and use spice. And people have been, Soma especially, has been spending all of his time, sleepless days and nights, trying to find a clever balance, a clever medium, and ways to utilize the ingredients along with the spices. They can choose up to 40 in some dishes, I think the dialogue suggests. And you want to be able to pick and choose things that complement each other and just make an overabundance of flavor and aroma. And, we're seeing Akira is, of course, the grand master of seemingly doing this. And then you have, his name escapes me, but Satoshi's sort of right-hand man is, smoking things. And all of these different things are going on. And they're just kind of building to the cliffhanger that, well, once again, Soma's kind of floundered it a little bit. He has spent so many waking hours trying to perfect something that's going to taste good and smell with just this thickness of aroma and incredible, taste of smell, if you will. Sometimes you almost can taste aromas and aromatic fragrances and such, and he just passes out. He just zonks out right at his countertop. And I think it's Mito who notices first, and then everyone else starts to notice, like, what's going on with everybody else? Soma's asleep. Just completely, the little Z's and all. And he actually, at one point, when Satoshi finds him in the kitchen, he passes out as well. So, I mean, I'm sure he will rebound. It's just a matter of how exactly is he gonna. And I'd love to know from you guys in the comments below who haven't necessarily read the manga, or if you have, no spoilers, but, I'm, kind of wanting to get into a discussion and speculation as to who you think the 8 will be that will move on. I would have to think Soma is going to be one of them. Megumi, maybe. I'm not 100% positive, but I have a feeling, like Akira will be, the Now character, the chick who was going after Megumi in either the previous episode or the one previous to that, who we see in this episode, and whose name escapes me off the top of my head, but, she's very much working in this kitchen where she's surrounded by men, and there's kind of a feminist slant to her character, in the sense that, because she is so belittled for being a woman, like all these chefs are, because they're masculine and whatever like that, they have more skills and more prowess, and they don't take her seriously. The head chef guy wants to bully her out of there, and so we see why she was kind of deflated when, she thought Megumi had all this prowess, but oh man, some guy helped her, so it's like, that's interesting as well. I'm guessing she's going to move on ahead. Mito, maybe another question mark. I mean, you look at sort of the main characters that are involved in this, and the ones that we've been following and have been the standout characters. There are background characters that just seem to be, meant to be in the background. That is to say, not main focus characters. Soma's a main focus character. Megumi is, Alice, Ryu probably. These are probably just some of the ones that are going to be moving on. And it's going to be interesting. I'd love to hear from you guys in the comments below, whereas I feel like there's not really much that needs to be said by the end of this episode. We're just sort of leading into the next episode and how these preliminaries are going to play out. The one part of the discussion we can have is, who do you think is going to move on? Who are going to be the 8 that move into the autumn elections proper? And I'm assuming they're going to probably be going up against, like the Elite 10 Arena and, Satoshi and all these other characters. I would have to guess that that's going to become a part of it, because they made a sort of emphasis in saying, with the preliminaries, well, the Elite 10, they're going to be part of the ones running it and perhaps judging it and such like that. And so I figured, with that being said, in significance, that must mean that we kind of get back to a little sense of normalcy with whoever the 8 are that succeed here. They're probably going to be up against them, or at least they're going to be judged by them directly. So, because as we see, it's not necessarily the Elite 10 who are doing the judging. We have all these restaurateurs and CEOs and conglomerates, as I say, who are part of that judge panel in both sections, A and B. And so yeah, I mean, that's what I'm left with by the end of this episode. Like, there were some comedic moments and some aspects that made me laugh out loud. I'm really digging the idea of the familiarity between, Mito and Soma. He just keeps calling her by that nickname, and she was a little bit softer than she usually is, but then she runs off. I'm going to be your enemy. I'm going to kick your ass, And with Takumi, every time he tries to get in a jab at Soma, it just fails. Something interrupts, or Soma doesn't care, or, I love that point where he's about to say for like the 4th time and the lights go off, and all you see is like the big bug eyes and the wide open mouth, the gaping mouth, like, not again, Yeah, I mean, kind of an uneventful episode for me, but by the end, at least I'm still wondering, who are going to be the characters lined up, the 8 that are going to succeed, and are we going to get to that point in the next episode? Are they going to stretch it out? Are we going to get into the autumn elections proper, see it actually officially start by the end of the season. I think 25 episodes, episode 25 is where we're supposed to end. And speculate even further, are we going to get a second season? Do we have to go and then pick up the manga for those like me who haven't read the manga to avoid spoilers? I'm going to be chomping at the bit and very tempted to once the series is done, if it looks like we're not going to get a second season or we're not going to get it right away. But it'll remain to be seen when we get to that point. So yeah, that's pretty much all I have to say on this particular episode. I hope to, hear from you guys as far as who you think the successors are going to be. And otherwise, I hope this video finds you well, and I'll catch you all later. Peace.